A death warrant has already been signed, sealed with the king's own ring, copied, sent by royal courier to every province in the largest empire on earth. One date, one order, kill them all, men, women, children, in a single day. And the woman with the only power to stop it can't even walk into the room where the king sits. Not without dying first. That's the law. Uninvited. Unsummoned. You approach the throne, you die. No exceptions. Not even for a queen. She has a secret that could get her executed the moment it's discovered. She has 3 days. She has a decision that will either save an entire people or bury her with them. Somewhere behind palace walls built on gold and blood, she is standing in front of a door. On the other side, the only man alive who can undo what's already been done. She doesn't know if he'll raise his hand to save her or give the order to kill her where she stands. And here's what should terrify you. This actually happened. This is not a parable. This is not a metaphor. This is history, preserved for over 2,000 years, of the one book in the entire Bible where God's name is never written. Not once. And yet, watch closely. He is on every page. Stay to the end, because what this queen does next will decide whether her people live or die by sundown on a single marked day. For such a time as this, the Persian Empire under King Xerxes was not a kingdom. It was a machine of excess. Marble pillars wrapped in silver. Wine poured from golden vessels, each one shaped differently, because even the cups were a display of wealth. For 180 days, Xerxes threw a banquet not for joy, but for power, inviting every noble, every governor, every commander to gaze upon what he owned. On the 7th day, drunk on wine and pride, the king sent for Queen Vashti. He wanted her paraded before his guests, a queen reduced to an ornament. On the 7th day, when the king was in high spirits from wine, he commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and nobles, for she was lovely to look at. Esther 1 verses 10 to 11. She refused. We don't know if it was courage or dignity or fear of being displayed like property. The text doesn't say. But her refusal shattered the king's pride in front of the one audience he could never disappoint, his own empire. Would you risk your position to protect your dignity? Vashti was banished. The throne, empty. She refused. She fell. She vanished. In the search for a new queen, officials scoured the empire for the most beautiful young women, bringing them into the palace to be prepared, groomed, and ultimately presented to the king. Among them was a Jewish orphan named Hadassah, raised by her cousin Mordecai after the death of her parents. The world would come to know her by her Persian name, Esther. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background, because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. Esther 2 verse 10. Think about that. A young Jewish woman, living in exile, entering the most powerful palace on earth, and told, from the very beginning, to hide who she truly was. She had every reason to be terrified, and yet the text tells us something quietly extraordinary. Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Esther 2 verse 15. Not through political scheming, not through manipulation, just grace, given to a girl in a foreign palace who had no power of her own. She was crowned queen, but her people still didn't know her name. Hidden, chosen, unknown. Not long after, Mordecai uncovered a plot to assassinate the king, and through Esther, warned him, saving Xerxes' life. It was recorded in the royal chronicles, and then, seemingly, forgotten. Meanwhile, a man named Haman rose to become the king's second in command. Everyone bowed to him. Everyone, except Mordecai. Haman was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. The next morning, Haman arrived at the palace, not to honor Mordecai, but to request his execution on gallows he'd already built. Instead, the king asked him, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Esther 6 verse 6. Haman, assuming the honor was for himself, described an elaborate parade through the city. The king agreed, and ordered Haman to give that very honor to Mordecai, the man he despised, leading him through the streets himself. Can you imagine the humiliation? The very gallows built for an enemy became, in a matter of hours, a symbol of how quickly pride collapses. Built, backfired, broken. At the second banquet, the king again asked Esther what she desired. This time, she answered, "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases the king, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation." Esther 7 verses 3 to 4. For the first time, Esther revealed everything: her identity, her people, the plot against them. The king, stunned, demanded to know who dared to do this. She pointed at the man sitting across from her, drinking his wine. The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman. Esther 7 verse 6. Haman was condemned and executed on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The decree of death could not legally be undone. Persian law forbade reversing a royal edict, but the king issued a new decree, allowing the Jewish people to defend themselves. What was meant to be a massacre became, instead, deliverance. Named, judged, reversed. The Jewish people did not simply survive. They were established as a people to be feared, and their sorrow turned into celebration. To this day, the festival of Purim commemorates this deliverance, a holiday of joy born directly out of a plan for annihilation. One girl, one decision made in silence, in fear, without a single miracle you could see with your eyes, and an entire people lived. What does Esther's story ask of us, really? First, courage doesn't require certainty. Esther didn't know how it would end. "If I perish, I perish" isn't the language of confidence. It's the language of obedience in spite of fear. Courage was never the absence of fear. It was moving forward anyway. Second, your position is not an accident. Where you are right now, your job, your family, your community, your influence, however small it feels, may be exactly the place you were positioned for such a time as this. Not to be admired, to be used. Third, God works even in silence. The Book of Esther never mentions his name. Not once. And yet every page is soaked in his providence. Favor granted, timing aligned, evil undone. Sometimes God's loudest work happens in the moments he seems most absent. If your life feels like a chapter with no visible miracle, that doesn't mean he isn't writing it. Fourth, one act of obedience can change the fate of many. Esther's yes didn't just save her, it saved a nation. And here's where the story reaches forward, centuries later, to another moment of impossible courage. Another figure who could have clung to safety, but chose instead to walk toward danger on behalf of people who didn't yet know they needed saving. Esther risked her life and said, "If I perish, I perish." Jesus laid his life down knowing exactly what it would cost, so that we would not perish, but have everlasting life. Esther is a shadow. Christ is the substance. So here's the challenge for you. Where in your life is God asking you to stop hiding, to stop staying comfortable and silent, and step forward, even without a guarantee of how it ends? You may never part a sea. You may never see a burning bush. But you might be given one door, one moment, one decision, and everything might depend on whether you walk through it. If this journey stirred your heart, follow the sacred mind. Share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe so these stories of faith and courage continue to reach the world. Somewhere, right now, there is a door in front of you. God has not stopped writing your story. He has simply been writing it in silence, waiting for you to say, "If I perish, I perish."